Alright, we haven't had a chance to take the truck out to the dyno yet. The weather here has been kind of weird. It snows about every weekend in the spring. This is the first weekend it hasn't snowed, but it rained. Also behind me here is my 2010 Equinox. It kind of let me down the other day. Customer sold this to me a while back for a transmission solenoid problem. Well, 10,000 miles later, the transmission itself went out. It took out the planetaries, as you can see right there. They're all chewed up because Torrington bearing went out. So that's kind of slowing me down. But I've still been working on the truck here and there. I've drove it to work a few times. It drives great. Haven't had one problem out of it. Finally got the intake wrapped up as far as all my idle air stuff and getting the AN fittings on it. So I'll show you how I did all that. And just a couple other piddly things I've done to it. Alright, since we got this thing pretty much lined out now, I'm going to start working on getting this mounted first. Get this mounted first, and then I'll work on the AN fittings. But while the intake's on, I can take measurements of the diameter of this and that relationship. I'd like to put two clamps on here I have in my mind, kind of like a piece of aluminum that will clamp on to here and here and be like one piece, and then I'll have a couple different pieces that clamp on. So we'll see if what's in my head can come out to fruition on this thing. We'll see what happens. Alright, I kind of drew out an actual measurement, not to scale, of the current intake air log and the fuel rails. Then down here I have accurate measurements, not to scale again, of what I want it to look like. So I need two of them. So the first thing I do, I squared up two pieces of aluminum, welded them together so that way they'll both be identical. And then right when I'm done, I break the welds loose and I should have two identical pieces. And then I sprayed tool maker dye on top so I can scratch in all my markings on it and know exactly where to drill and where to cut. So next step is to mark out my drill holes. Alright, there's what I got made up. This will be where the IAC log sits, and this will be where fuel rail sits. I'm thinking if I cut it across here and here, I should be good. And then I could put a bolt in through here, here, and here if necessary. But I might be able to get away with just putting one here and here. So I'm going to do some thinking and some figuring where I want to drill that, and then I need to make my outline and cut it on the bandsaw. Alright, here's my piece I came up with. This is my second one. The first one I went ahead and cut it where I told you before, right along here. And this is actually just a little bit too thin. If you can see, there's my hole there, and it kind of came out the side where the head and the bolt would rest. So I'm going to make another one out of 3/8. So I decided to go ahead and make one completely out of this to see how it fit. I haven't got the edges finished off, but there it is. There's how it fit. It fit really, really good. I was surprised how good it fits. So on this one, what you got to do, the top is kind of it's a little bit tight, but if you pop this up, it's hard to do with one hand on the camera. I might end up cutting the other one just a little bit different because this one is, now it's pitching me a fit. I had to put the camera down and get both hands on it, but there's how this one fits, and this one under here slides. You put it in sideways and then straighten it up. And like I said, here's the top, just a little bit of a tight fit right there. Then I'll put my bolts right in there. That thing there will look about like a factory piece, I think, when I'm done with it, so I'll be happy with that. So I'm going to make the next one out of 3/8, same basic step, except I'm going to do one at a time this time. Just due to the fact that the thickness of it will be almost 3/4 of an inch thick, so it'll be a lot easier just to do them one at a time. Alright, here's the evolution of my idle air control log brackets. First I started off with this one, as I thought was going to work, but then I realized it wasn't. It was too thin. There wasn't enough room to get the bolt down in there. without it sticking out the sides. And you can see right, I can't really see that very good, but one of them, yeah, this one here, it actually popped out the side. So these end up being my test pieces, so they're too thin. This is a 1/4 inch. This is 1/4 inch. So then I stepped it up to 3/8. This is the one I made for 3/8. I also found out on this one that I had the bolts going at an angle. Well, you can have the bolts going in at an angle, but it's not going to actually tighten that up. It would just keep it the same length because the bolts aren't going to bend. So I need to come straight up and down vertical with the bolts to clamp that up. So I started to make another one, and I accidentally drilled these to 11/16 instead of 9/16, so scrap that one. And this one, I thought it was going to be perfect. I got it all done, and then I had a machining error. I recessed these for the head of the bolt. Well, I wasn't thinking, and I recessed the entire thing for the head of the bolt. So you put the bolt in there and tighten it up. Yeah, it just still comes apart in half. That was a really good one too. I probably had about 5 hours in making 2 of those that didn't work. So I came up with my last design. So here's my last design. I haven't polished them out yet. Still got some of my dye on there from when I painted them to scribe them. But I plan on driving the truck tomorrow to work, and that's how they came out. They came out pretty good. I was real happy with it. As you can see, I can pull on that. It does not move at all. So they clamp down there on the fuel rail, and then the bolts go straight up and down there, and then they clamp all the 3 pieces together at once. So it came out real nice. I'll pull this back off and polish it out, and like I said, put all new AN lines where these hoses are. So I'm going to be AN fittings and braided stainless line to make it look better. This whole log will be polished out so it'll look really good. Alright, before I go to the dyno, I was hoping to get my intake air log all finished off permanently, and all my parts came in today. Ordered some stainless braided line, and I got a steel 90 on the one side that goes on the intake, and then this straight fitting here goes on that IAC log I made. These are brake lines, but they work just fine. The hole diameter was a little small. When I was blowing through it, I could notice a restriction compared to what I had on there, even though these are supposed to be the same size as what I have on there. These are -4s. So I drilled them 2 sizes bigger than what they had, and now it seems to be blowing the same through there. So there's the fittings, what they look like, and I got all these from Speedway Motors. They were the cheapest I could find. I went with an aluminum Earl's straight fitting on one end, and just a Speedway Motors steel brand 90 on the other end with 1/8 inch pipe and -4 AN. So my next step is to pull my log off, get it all polished up, pull the intake off, put my 90s in it, and then get this thing hooked up and done. Alright, the way I'm going to start polishing this idle air control tube out that ran across the top of the intake, I got the one end chucked up in a drill here, the back part where it feeds it, put some electrical tape around it, I got some sandpaper. Just going to turn the drill on and kind of use it like a lathe until I get it polished down to where I want. I'm going to use finer and finer grit as I go. The only thing I have to watch out for is this little tang right here. I don't want it to get a hold of me, but I'll get this all polished down where I want, and then I'll throw it on a buffer. And you gotta worry about stuff like that happening. You can see how quick it's already making a real noticeable difference on this thing. So this thing will take no time at all to polish out. Right here you can see the finished product. It came out real nice. Took about 40 minutes to get this thing polished out, but it'll look good on there. Can unwrap my tape now, and this piece here is done and ready to be cleaned out and installed back on the truck. Alright, I got a pretty simple ordeal here. All I gotta do is pull all these fittings and lines off, put these fittings in the base, put a little bit of thread seal on them, put my braided stainless lines on, and then in my manifold log put these black AN fittings, and then hopefully I want to pull the intake off again. Seems like I pull this thing off about every other week, so hopefully this is the last time for a while. Alright, there she is, all back together. See, I got my brackets all polished out, the idle air control log looks good on there, all those braided lines look great. This thing looks like a show truck now, but a functional show truck. I wonder how many people are going to ask if this is nitrous or fuel. I'm kind of curious. I've already been asked once if it's fuel, so I guess we'll find out what the consensus is with most people understand what that is. So I admit it kind of does look like a fuel line, but what are those two lines underneath it? So anyways, it looks great. The next thing I really would like to do is move this line. I'm kind of thinking about going with a black braided line and run it up along here so it kind of distracts from the engine bay a little bit. Looks kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, so that'll probably be one of the next things I do. I don't have the stuff for that right now, but I'm real happy with the way the intake looks, and I just fired it up and it runs the same, so we're good to go. Alright, I decided to put new taillights in my truck. The ones that are on there are kind of foggy, so I got these from work. These are genuine GMs. I personally don't like the looks of the LED or the Euro style looking taillights. I think the factory ones look as good as any of them, if not better. So I'm going to stick with the factory. As you can see, here's my other ones. Probably hard to see in the video, but they're all fogged out real bad down in here. So I'm going to upgrade those and make it look a lot more crisp and clean. You can see the white there is kind of yellowed out. So I'm going to put those in it, make it look more clean. Alright, that's going to do it for this short update. Promise as soon as I take the thing to the dyno, I'll put a video up of it the next day. But meanwhile, I'm going to keep doing what I can while I have it here. I'm kind of looking at buying another 4L65 for it. Normally I build my own transmissions, but for the price of the transmission parts alone is going to cost me almost what a whole transmission costs with a warranty. So I'm thinking about buying that. I found one that Yank sells. It's supposed to hold like 1,000 horsepower. And it has a tranny brake and everything in it, so I'd love to have a transmission brake in this truck. I think that'd really make it come strong off the line and make up on the big end for it too, so I think I can justify that. But anyways, I'll keep you updated on the progress of this thing. As always, thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe.